apply to university. So the first thing I do want to mention is that if you have any questions at all throughout the webinar today, feel free to type them into that chat box and I'll be able to answer you live today. So this is all in real time, so yeah, I can answer anything for you on the spot. And because there's not many of us in the webinar today, I'm happy to do that. I'm happy to try and answer them as we go along, as opposed to waiting to the end of the session. So to kick things off today, to give you a bit of an overview of what we'll be going through, we will be looking at the process of applying through SATAC, how to order your preferences, as well as a little bit of information about once you get to university and once you've been made an offer. So as I mentioned, that Q&A at the end probably won't necessarily be happening, as I'll try and do that for you throughout the webinar today. Okay, so it's just some fast facts for you as to how to apply to university. If you are in Year 12, actually, if you could just write in the chat box if you are in Year 12 or if you're an adult entry student, that might actually help tailor this webinar for you. You can feel free to aim that directly at me or put it in the post to everyone. But everyone will need to apply through SATAC if you are thinking of applying for university. SATAC will be your application process if you are thinking of applying to any university, not just in South Australia, but also the Northern Territory. So if you are thinking of applying for a university in Victoria or New South Wales, then you will be using a different application process. That might be through VTAC for Victoria or QTAC through Queensland. So if you are thinking of applying for multiple states, you will be submitting multiple applications. The deadline for SATAC is Friday 29th of September, and if you are in Year 12, the application fee is only $35. There are a few other fees that will take place if you add things on, things like the STAT, but after the 29th of September, it does jump up quite a bit as there's a $130 late fee. So I do highly recommend that you begin your application process sooner rather than later. You do have up until the 3rd of January to change your preferences around, so you're not locked in, but you just need to begin that application. So feel free to take a screenshot of some of these key dates that may be useful for you, especially if you are in Year 12. Some ones that I've already mentioned, but another one to take note of is January 16 is the main offer round. So you may also notice that you will get your Year 12 results released in mid-December, but you do have until the 3rd of January to change your preferences around. So that means you don't need to make any decisions before you've got your results released. Your results may change the way you're thinking a little bit, and we will have some information sessions available to help you through that period of time between your results release and the change of preference deadline. Excuse me, as well. Okay, to get things started with the application, as you may or may not know, there's lots of pathways into university. Your ATAR is probably the most straightforward way, and that's what I'll be speaking about largely today. So, however, if things don't go to plan in Year 12, then you do have other options available to you. Things like STAT, TAFE Link, Flinders Link, Foundation Studies. These are all things that can help get you into university. If you are interested in finding out more on these, we will be running some webinars on pathways into university. It's probably best you tune into one of those. But as with the ATARs, you may have noticed in your course brochures, if you picked them up or had a look online, that there are some different admission scores to get. So, a competitive entry score is in every single every single course has a competitive entry score, and then most courses or degrees have a guaranteed entry. The competitive entry score is actually set based on the last person that got into that degree. So this can fluctuate a little bit, and these are some of the degrees and some of the fluctuations that happen between the degrees. So an example of this might be, just say for example there might be 200 positions available in the Bachelor of Arts. Basically the way that competitive entry score is set is they will rank people that have applied for your Bachelor of Arts with the highest ATAR all the way down to the lowest ATAR received. They'll then work their way down their list to number 200 where they've cut it off, and the last person that gets into the Bachelor of Arts, The last person that got in 2017 had an ATAR of 60.25. So that's why some of the competitive entry scores do fluctuate a little bit, and we do suggest that you use that as a guide, because it can jump around a little bit. Generally speaking, it doesn't jump around too much from year to year, but it can happen. So we do ask you to try and account for that into your planning. However, if you do receive a guaranteed entry score, then that can't fluctuate. That is, if you receive an ATAR over the guaranteed entry score, you will be made an offer into that course once the main offer round comes out. There are a couple of things that can help boost your ATAR. Hopefully you have been told about these if you are in Year 12, and that's bonus points. So every person could be eligible to receive a maximum of 9 bonus points. 5 of those bonus points may come from your school. If your school is eligible for bonus points, then your teachers hopefully have told you about it, but not every school is. So that's something you need to have a chat to your teachers about. If your school isn't eligible for bonus points, then you can apply for equity bonus points through a personal equity scheme, and they're called the individual bonuses. So that's a part of your SATAC application, which we'll go through in a little bit as well. So if you hold a concession card or your parents hold a concession card, then you may be eligible to apply for the individual bonuses and potentially get an extra 5 bonus points onto your ATAR. Another way to get bonus points is if you are studying a language other than English, English studies, a higher level English or a higher level maths, then you may be eligible to receive a maximum of 4 bonus points. So the way that works is even if you're studying a language other than English, a higher level English and a higher level maths, so 3 that are eligible for bonus points, you can only receive a maximum of 4. So it's 2 bonus points for each topic. The best way to go about bonus points though is to call us. So the day that you guys receive your Year 12 results, our team is on the phone from 8 o'clock till 6 o'clock, literally handling calls all day, telling students their adjusted ATAR. So for some reason, SATAC, when you receive your results, that doesn't include the bonus points. The only way for you to find out your adjusted ATAR is for you to call a university, and we can recalculate that for you. So if you receive an ATAR of 65, but you are eligible for 4 bonus points, your ATAR doesn't automatically become 69. It does get recalculated and rescaled, and your ATAR might jump up to something like 71 or 72. But as I mentioned, unfortunately there's no way for you to work that out. That is all done through a system that we have, so you do need to call the university and we can assess that for you. At Flinders, bonus points count towards every degree except medicine for subject bonus points. So the equities points will still count towards medicine, but the subject bonus points won't. When you are applying for university, there are a couple of other things you do need to consider. Some of these are your prerequisites and your assumed knowledge. So prerequisites are topics that you needed to have completed in Year 12 to be eligible to apply for a certain degree. So at Flinders, prerequisites fall largely in the computer science, engineering and maths area, and some in the science side of things. If you're unsure if the course you want to apply for has a prerequisite, it is all listed on each course page on the website under entry requirements down the bottom, and you can see there, or give us a call and we can let you know that as well. Assumed knowledge is a little bit different. So assumed knowledge is topics that would have helped you in your degree if you completed them in Year 12, but it's not a necessity. You don't need it to have completed them in Year 12 to be eligible to apply for that degree. One thing to remember with prerequisites is that if you haven't met your prerequisites and you have your heart set on doing, say, engineering, a specialisation of engineering, but you haven't done a specialist maths or a high-level maths in Year 12, then it's absolutely not the end of the world. We've always got a pathway for you. So that's where we suggest that perhaps you do an engineering science for the first year and then transfer into a specialised degree. And it's really likely you wouldn't actually lose out on too much time. The other thing to consider is a few other special entry requirements. So within our creative arts streams, we do have quite a few extra things you need to consider, whether that be a dance or a portfolio or a CV. So as I mentioned though, they are largely in our creative arts degrees. And the last one, of course, is you are required to have sat the UMAT if you are applying for the Bachelor of Clinical Sciences, Doctor of Medicine. Hopefully none of this is new news to you. If you have any questions, make sure you jump online or again get in touch with us and we can clarify that for you. Okay, moving along to ordering preferences. This is if you are in Year 12, which I can see some of you are. This is where it can become a little bit stressful for you, and it definitely doesn't need to be. If you've begun your SATAC application, you've hopefully seen that you do have 6 preferences that you can fill in. You do not need to fill all of the 6 preferences, but we always ask that you have a backup plan in place. So that's things like, as I mentioned, with your engineering science, using that as a pathway into a specialised engineering degree. Or if you don't think you'll get the ATAR to get into a higher level allied health like occupational therapy or optometry, then we can always recommend for you some backup options and pathways into the degree you want. So this is something we don't expect you to know the answer to. There's so many pathway options available for you. That's what we're here to help you out with, and we're trying to make it as easy as possible for you. But you do need to get in touch with us, and we can always have a look at your SATAC application and make sure that you've got the best possible backup options in place for you. We also always recommend that you list what you want most as a #1 preference. Even if you think you know that you won't get the ATAR required to get into that, still list that as your first preference, because as I explained earlier, the competitive entry score does fluctuate a little bit, so you never know what might happen. And then of course back it up with some perhaps lower level, less competitive ATAR degrees as well. But yeah, always list what you want as your #1 preference and don't go by the ATAR. So if you're set to get a really high ATAR, don't think that you need to put in a higher level, a more competitive degree just because it's got a higher ATAR to get into it. We always recommend you put it in by your passion rather than the ATAR. And as I've mentioned a few times before, you can change your preferences around as many times as you want. There are a few myths out there that you can only change it 2 or 3 times, but you can absolutely change it as many times as you want, right up until the 3rd of January. To give you a bit of an example of how someone has preferenced their application, we do have this example here. So in first preference, this person wants to get into law and legal practice, but then they've also backed that up nicely with a law and society law pathway. And to be honest, there's actually there's a third preference this person could have done as well that can help get them into the law and society law pathway degree. So there's lots of options available for you. They've then decided though that if they don't get into the law and society pathway, they've decided that they'd also be really happy with psychology. So they put in psychology as their third preference, and then their arts is a backup option which can be used for both of those degrees as well, which has the lowest ATAR of 60.25. And again, if you don't receive an ATAR above 60, there's still pathways for you, but you do need to get in touch with us. Okay, remember as well, if you have any questions, feel free to type them into the box there and I'll answer them for you right here on the spot. Okay, so SATAC, if you are in Year 12, hopefully you have been shown this page and it's not unfamiliar to you, but you would be applying as an undergraduate. An undergraduate means that you have not completed a degree at university before. Postgraduate means that you've completed a degree and now you're looking to do further study. So if you're in Year 12, you would absolutely be looking at an undergraduate degree. You would then be going through the My Application button, which is over here on the right hand side of your screen, and then from there you can begin your registration process, and then it will open you up to your application. So over on the left hand side of the screen you can see that you've got some ticks next to the side of the screen. So you've done home, terms and conditions, personal details and preferences. The SATAC application is really well done in that it will go through and tick once you've completed that page. So it won't let you move on to the next page if you haven't completed it. So it's really hard to actually mess up, which is really nice to know. Your preferences though, this is the page that causes people a little bit of stress, and as I mentioned, it doesn't need to at all. This is where you list all of the courses that you want to study, and then on the left hand side of the white part of this page, you can preference them. That's where you reorder them, and that's where you back up your options. So as I mentioned, the person in the example from before has listed laws and legal practice as their first option, and then they've placed a number 2 next to the Bachelor of Justice and Society. If this person had decided that they wanted to add in something else, then they would simply add that in and then add in the numbers down, manually type in the numbers down the preference column, and then click reorder. That way it will reorder them to the way that they've listed their numbers. But then the most important part here is that you do need to click save down the bottom right hand corner before you click next. So a lot of people do forget to click that save button. They'll simply go onto the next page, and then of course their preferences aren't saved in that reorder. So yeah, make sure you remember to hit reorder, save, and then next before you move on to the next one. The next page we have is your school studies. So this is where you will complete that you are currently in Year 12 and that you will be completing in 2017 if you are in Year 12. And you will be, if you're in South Australia, completing SACE Stage 2, or you'll be listing the IB there if you're an IB student. Your registration number is something that your school should have, your SACE number. So if you're unsure of that, make sure you speak to your teachers as well, and that's where that one goes in. The next few areas are slides where they probably aren't very relevant to Year 12 students. So this is where if you have completed any other university study, you would list that. List this. Oh, sorry, this one's the Pathways program. So again, being in Year 12, you probably wouldn't have completed any pathway programs just yet. So you can skip through this page as you can with the tertiary studies, which means you haven't studied at university before. However, the next page, if you are in Year 12 and you're doing VET as part of your SACE, then this is where you list this. So if you're doing a Certificate 3 or 2 through your Year 12 studies, you'll simply click yes, and then it will bring you to this page here. This is where you list everything about the certificate that you're doing, and where it says year completed or last enrolled, you'll put the year that you're scheduled to complete it, which is, I'm assuming, 2017. So you'll have year commenced 2017 and then year completed 2017. Even though you may not have completed it yet, our admissions team will go through and check that before main offer round to make sure that it's all been completed, and they'll get in touch with your TAFE to confirm that. So you just simply need to list in there that you're scheduled to complete it, and then our team will do the rest here. If you are thinking of considering the STAT, this is where if you are considering sitting the STAT, this is where you will tick that you want to do that. So with the STAT, if you are 18 by the 1st of February 2018, then you are eligible to sit the STAT. So this is a test which is based all on aptitude really, so it's 70 multiple choice questions. It does cost extra, which I mentioned earlier, so it does cost around $140 for Year 12 students. And you can register to sit this through this application. This is a test that's run through SATAC, so it's not run through a university. And basically this can be an alternative admission point for you. So if you do sit the STAT, it means that you will have 2 admission points that can be used as a basis to get into university. Meaning that the university will look at whatever's highest, your ATAR or your STAT results, to get you into university. There are quite a few sitting dates. The main one is on 19th of November. However, that does sell out fairly quickly, so it may be worth jumping online to the SATAC website and seeing when the next sitting date is, and it does become quite sporadic after the main sitting date. So there are lots of regional places to sit it as well. So if Adelaide isn't your closest venue, then you can sit it regionally as well. One thing I like to point out though, if I just jump back to the previous slide, is that if you click that you want to sit the stat, but then you don't actually go on and register and sit the stat, your application will not be processed because SATAC will assume that it's waiting for results from your stat test. So if you click that you want to sit the stat, then I recommend you go through and book a session fairly promptly, or you go back in, if you decide that you don't want to do it, go back into your SATAC application and click no. As I mentioned, if you click yes and you don't ever sit the stat, you decide it's not what you want to do, then your application will not be processed because it's waiting for results that aren't coming. Okay, just one thing to try and remember with that one. Okay, personal competencies. This is again something that's not overly relevant for Year 12 students, and either is the employment experience. These are generally for adult students where some courses do consider employment experience if it's in an area similar to the degree they're applying for. Special consideration, this is where you can potentially add in your personal equity points application as well. So if you do have any a concession card or your parents have a concession card, this is where you'll click yes and it will take you through to a new page. Once you've done all of that, you can see on the left hand side you've got ticks all down the left hand side. That means you're ready to submit your application. Once you submit your application, you can still change your preferences, but you do need to hit submit, make sure that all of your details are correct, and then it will take you through to your next page where it says pay fees. I highly recommend you pay your fees sooner rather than later, simply because if you don't pay your fees, again, your application will not be processed. So lots of times we've received calls on the main offer round day where students have received an ATAR over the guaranteed entry score and yet they haven't received an offer. This is because they've, once we've gone in and had a look at their application, it's because they haven't paid that SATAC fee. So make sure you do log in and pay that fee sooner rather than later so that you don't forget. Perhaps the biggest thing as well is to use an email address that you can access after school. So this is another one in that people will begin a SATAC application with a school email address. But once Year 12's finished school, quite often teachers or the school IT team will shut down their account, which means that when offers are made, offers go to the email address that you've registered on SATAC. So you need to create an email address, if you haven't already, that can be accessed in January. If you have submitted an SATAC application with a school email address, you still can change it. SATAC can do that for you, but yeah, make sure you do get it changed. As I mentioned, you can change your preferences around right up until 3rd of January, and Flinders is really helpful in that way in that we schedule lots of information sessions where you can come in and chat to us. So quite often, although we try and recommend for students to preference their application in order of what they want to do most, sometimes they don't always do that and do need a little bit of assistance once they've received their ATAR and just say they've achieved higher than they thought they would, but they haven't listed a course on there because they didn't think they'd get the score. You can come in and chat to us and we can help guide you through your SATAC application and look at the preferences for you. So these dates will be released over the next few months, so make sure you sign up to our Flinders Explorer, which is our school newsletter, and they will keep you updated, or again jump online to our events page and there will be information on there about our change of preference information sessions. Okay, so that's largely the information in regards to our SATAC application and applying for university. So again, I'll just remind you, if you have any questions, feel free to type them into that chat box. But once you have submitted your application, you will receive some results in December. So this will happen in mid-December. And just to remember that your results will not include your bonus points. You do need to call us and we can adjust that for you and let you know what your ATAR is. Your main offer round will be emailed throughout the day, so that can be right up until 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock at night. So if you don't receive an offer straight away, hang tight until the end of the day, because yeah, they do get released slowly throughout the day, and that will be on Tuesday the 16th of January. So as I mentioned quite a few times, that is the day that we are on the phone constantly updating school students with their adjusted ATAR with the bonus points. If you're lucky enough to receive an offer to your first preference, so the preference that you've listed as number 1 on your SATAC application, then this will automatically be accepted for you, because SATAC assumes that if you've listed it as your first preference, then that's what you want most. However, if you perhaps receive an offer to your second preference, then we highly recommend you click the option on your SATAC application that says, I accept this offer but wish to be considered for a higher preference. If you click that offer, it means that you have saved that position. You've guaranteed that offer. They can't take that away from you. But it also means that in later offer rounds, your name is essentially back in the pool for your higher preference. So what that means is if people in the course that you want to get into perhaps and have been made an offer, perhaps don't take up their offer or choose a different university, then that position becomes free, which means in later offer rounds, the university will work their way down the list, and that might be enough to get you into that spot. So if you do still want your first preference, then we really highly recommend you click I accept this offer but wish to be considered for a higher preference. However, if you are really happy with that, you've had a change of heart and you want your second position or third position, then absolutely click accept. However, if you click reject or reject but wish to be considered for a higher preferences, then your offer will not be there for you. They will give that away to someone else that wants it. You will receive an email once you've accepted your offer from Flinders University, which provides you with all the information you need about how to enrol. So this is, enrolling is different from applying. Applying is applying for university, and enrolling is enrolling in your topics once you've been made an offer. So there is lots of instructional videos, there's lots of support here on campus, there's support by the phone, there's lots of support available for you. Some degrees are actually a little bit tricky to enrol in just because there's so much variation. And so this is why we don't want you to get too daunted by it, but call us before you get too stressed out about it. And then other degrees are super simple to enrol in as well. So hopefully you don't have too many issues. Utilise the services that we have on our website, and that should make it fairly easy and straightforward for you. Okay, Orientation Week. Orientation Week is something we highly recommend you to come along to as well. It's a great week, it's a lot of fun, but it does also have a huge amount of information to set you up for the year. So there's workshops, there's information sessions, you can meet your classmates for your degree, you can go on campus tours, you can collect free stationery and free food, and heaps of social events where you can interact and make friends with all of your new peers. So a really great week. It does start the week before university, so if you are planning on going away in the summer holidays, we do recommend you plan to be back before orientation week, just because there's so much relevant information there, and some of it's really specific to your course. So each course will have its own information session that's relevant to you and your degree that you've been accepted into. There's also heaps of information about how to utilise your university experience, like things through studying abroad, how to join clubs and societies. This is where you can sign up to your football team or your swimming team or your frisbee team or your chess club or your anything. This is where a great opportunity for you to do that is all at Orientation Week. And then the last thing I want to mention is once you're here, once you're in your degree, make sure you know that you're definitely not alone. If you are in Year 12, I'm sure you've probably been told that once you get to university, you're on your own. And it's true to a certain degree you are, but there's lots of support available for you. So you can still change things around. You can still change your degree to go part-time. If you want to, you can choose to withdraw from topics. You can even choose to transfer degrees. So you're definitely not stuck in the degree that you've been admitted into. There's always a pathway to move around the university, and that's something we can explain to you, either our team or Flinders Connect as well. So this is the team that I work in, and we're basically here to help you get into university, choose the degree that you want to do best, and if you find out it's not for you, we can also help navigate your way through the university into other degrees that may be of interest for you. So feel free to take a screenshot of those details. As I mentioned, we are more than happy to help you out at any time throughout the year, especially if you are in Year 12 and you do get to the end of Year 12 with your results and you'd like some more information. That's what we're here to do, so help alleviate any stresses that you may have. Apart from that, if there's no more questions, I think that's pretty much it from me today and how to apply for university. So if you do have any questions, again, feel free to type them into the box, or else I might leave you there and I can hopefully see you on campus next year or at Flinders. I will just mention as well, there's a whole range of webinars coming out over the next couple of months. Some of them are really general and will be a bit more like this, or informative, general information. But we will also be releasing some course-specific ones as well. So if you're interested in, say, criminology, then we'll be doing a criminology-specific webinar. But those haven't been released yet. They will be released over the next few weeks or months. So if you're in Year 12, good luck. Wish you all the best. But yeah, look forward to seeing you on campus next year. Thanks very much.